ऑर्गेनाइज किया है। और हमारे साथ अभी जो है वो सलमान राजानी है, जो हमारे आज के स्पीकर हैं। और सलमान राजानी जो है वो हमारे चेयरमैन है जीआरबी के, ग्रांट एंड रिव्यू बोर्ड के, नेशनल काउंसिल फॉर मोजाम्बिक। और अभी प्रोफेशनल तौर पे यहाँ के जो एक मल्टीनेशनल कंपनी जो है यूहान ग्रुप ऑफ होल्डिंग्स में, जो जिसको रेडिसन ग्रुप ऑफ होटल्स बिलोंग करता है, उसको उसके हेड ऑफ अकाउंट एनालिसिस है। सलमान, मैं गुजारिश करूंगा कि आप यहाँ से शुरू कीजिए और हमारे जो भी पार्टिसिपेंट्स मेंबर्स हैं उनके साथ आप अपना जो नॉलेज है वो शेयर करें। सलमान, थैंक यू।
Thank you, Sikandar. Can everybody hear me clearly? Can you hear me, Sikandar? All good?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly.
Okay, excellent. So I would like to get started immediately since lots of people have made it on time. So shall we get started?
Yes, please.
Okay, excellent. Yali madad everyone and welcome to the session. हमारा आज का जो session है, I will try to switch between English and Urdu. I know I'm a bit mindful of the audience. और जो जितना हो सकेगा, because the topic is such that I might have to explain certain things in English. Jitna ho sakega, I will try to use simple language so that it's understandable by all, one and all. So let's get going. Before we start, I would like to just explain a little bit of how the session will look like. We'll take about 40-45 minutes to go through the content that we have in front of us today. After which all the questions I will try to address as much as possible to the best of my ability in the last part of the session. So pehle I will deliver the content, iske baad end mein I will take the questions that the audience has. I would recommend that you use the Q&A session. There is an icon there where you can log in your questions. Or jinke paas pen or paper kareeb hai, I would encourage you to take some notes if something makes relevance or sense into your own business. Obviously, finance principles are generally universal and apply to one and all businesses, depending, regardless of the scale. So that's how the webinar will go ahead. Sabse pehle to I would like to give credit to one of my colleagues who has generously agreed to share the content of this presentation. She is one of my ex-colleagues from Radisson, who is based out of Dubai and recently opened her own financial consultancy company. I attended her webinars about 2 weeks ago. She did another session last week. And this gave me the time to then focus on delivering the content rather than preparing the content. She has prepared the slides. I have just modified and adapted it to today's audience. So thoda bahut cutting, I have shortened it a little bit and keep it more focused. Our original session was just about an hour. So I would like to give a full credit for the content and that I'll be delivering today. You can follow her. She's based out of UK and Dubai, currently in UK. She has a website. She does consultancy for small and medium firms, and generally is a very sound financial professional. So that's about her. That's a little bit about me. Sikandar gave a very generous introduction, so I will skip talking about myself and rather talk about what we're going to do today. So we're going to focus on what's practical tips as a businessman or as a business owner or a manager, whoever is attending, can use in day-to-day businesses to improve your cash flow situation in this difficult time, and how can we prepare ourselves for what's going to be, you might have heard the term, the new normal. So obviously this pandemic is going to have a little bit more than temporary effects. There might be some lasting effects on consumer behavior, on how we do things, how we run businesses. Models will come under scrutiny. There'll be a lot of pressure from all angles, from supply chain to financing and customers and suppliers, all in the mix. So we're going to look at a little bit on all of those touch points. But most importantly, we'll focus on cash and look at the individual elements. How can we optimize our greatest resource, which is cash, in any business? Before we start, I would like to ask a few quick questions. And if one by one, I'm going to ask each question, and I would request the participants, कि मैं जैसे ही सवाल पूछूं, then you can answer the question so I can get to know my audience a little bit better. So I will start with, if you can tell me what is your industry or line of work? क्या काम है आपका? Do you own retail stores, electronic stores? Do you have a bank, or do you have a financial institution? If you can quickly make some comments in the chat box so that I can understand the kind of businesses that are being represented here. I see people are starting to type. That's good. Retail, construction materials. Rent a car trading, something different. Retail again. Maybe 1 or 2 more seconds, and then we can move to the next question. We have some people in distribution. Others are running a household. Stock market trading, IT equipment, hospitality. So we have a good mix. We have the service industry and also FMCG and trading. The next question I would like to ask my audience is, do you have an accountant, or do you manage your books yourself? Because I want to understand from a scale perspective, if how many people have access to a resource like an accountant. I see there's one person who's managing his books himself, another one, that's great. Self-accounting, more and more. A few have accountants, that's great. Another couple of seconds and we can move to the next question. Do you use accounting software, or for some people, they might be keeping books the good old-fashioned way, using books and ledgers? You don't have to specify which software, just either you use the software or not. You keep manually your books. I see lots of people using software. That's good to see, especially in this digital world that we live in. Fantastic. So I'm going to move to the last question. Is what kind of financial statements that you are already familiar with? If you can list up to 2 or 3, or even 1, whatever you know, that you're familiar with, you use in your business on a daily, weekly, monthly, annually, whatever basis that you use them on. If you know, what are you familiar with? What do you use in your business on a regular basis? I see lots of answers with profit and loss. Nice to see that some people also look at balance sheet and cash flows. Fantastic. I see aging reports, debtors analysis, very good. So I can see a great majority looks at profit and loss accounts, which I think everybody is interested in. How much money are we making? But today's session will give light to the fact that making money on a piece of paper is not enough. How much of it actually flows in terms of cash is extremely, if not more, equally important to look at. So cash flow is going to be our focus for today, and its different elements. So let's dive into our session. I'm going to give you a quick overview of what the session will look like today. Today's session is split into 4 major areas. Sabse pehle to we'll look at possible implications of this COVID-19 or the medical situation, which is pandemic, this virus situation, and what are the possible short-term and long-term implications for most businesses in general. Dusra, we will look at how to plan your cash flow in your business. And there is something called working capital. So we'll look at the elements of working capital, or how can we optimize best use of the elements of working capital. And obviously everybody is worried about cutting costs. So we'll look at, in the third section, how can you restructure your costs. We'll look at more from an approach perspective, that how can you approach cost cutting. And obviously with costs come cash costs as well, which will help reduce the pressure on your cash requirements. And lastly, we will look at what steps can you take to sustain your business going forward. So we talked a little bit about how can you prepare your business for the new normal. Uh, Obviously, this webinar is probably 2 or 3 months into the pandemic, so there might be things you might have already done, but it never harms them to learn them again. You might get some new ideas, some might be something that you might have heard already, which is well and good. As we say, we never stop learning, so we'll share anyway what I know and what you might be using already. So let's get into the first section of our webinar is possible recovery scenario. Either I got an interesting take. This is more from a macro level, yani ke country level, higher, bigger level economies. So general impacts, maybe even global, I would say. That McKinsey is a company, it's a corporate finance company, and they have produced this report. कि इस pandemic का क्या impact हो सकता है? How deep the economic recession that we are talking about can it be? And what would possible recovery look like? So they have plotted 9 positions. Now, how did they come about these 9 positions? They looked at 2 major axes, and from a health perspective, how much the virus spreads and what is the public health response on the X, and on the Y, what are the government interventions to minimize the impact of the economic crisis. So if you look at the holistic picture of possible impact, it can be anywhere from deep recession, which is your bottom left, to a quick, speedy, swift recovery like this sort of almost never happened, and everybody did their part, and we conquered the virus, and we are back on our normal daily lives. In my personal opinion, I think the recovery is going to be somewhere in between those scenarios. So if you look at the blue boxes that have been prepared, it's more a U or a V-shaped recovery. There will be some deep economic impacts on certain industries, which we'll look at a little bit later. But overall, in general, there will be a decline. I'm sure a lot of your businesses are already impacted by various percentages. Jitna already revenue kisi ka kam ho gaya hoga, some down to 0. I'm talking about my colleagues in hospitality. It took us 3 weeks to go from some revenue to 0. It started early March, and by end of March, we had no revenues. So some had such drastic impacts, while others might be thriving. For example, consumer goods. Obviously, with this lockdown situation, there is limited activities that you can take. So you're a lot of the times either in front of the TV or stuck in 4 walls. We are blessed and fortunate enough in Mozambique to be able to go to our offices. A lot of our colleagues and brothers in the community around the world are not even able to make it to the office. They are more restricted than we are. So there are certain businesses that thrive. For example, Netflix for entertainment has all of a sudden picked up in their revenues and sales because you have limited options of entertainment outside. Same goes for food and retail. Retail, maybe less in general, more food and basic necessities. Because I would believe that the impact on, for example, retail clothing would be very negative, as a lot of the people have less disposable income. They would prioritize their spending on the basic necessities. Now, in saying that, even in the basic necessities, we see some trends in terms of the loyalty to the big brands is being tested. So if I have, for example, मेरे पास 4 किस्म के oil can है. One is the best brand, probably costs $15-20 for a pack. The other one is 12, the other one is 8, the other one is 6. Depending on what my customer base is, a lot of the customer bases seem to be trending down on their purchases, obviously, for the simple reason that I have less to spend. So we see that people are becoming more and more savvy about their money. So they are trying to find ways to stretch the dollar, every single dollar they have. Now, how does that fit into the bigger landscape of recovery? So obviously, or it is almost clear that people will be less brand loyal in the future, because brands generally demand premiums, and people's ability to spend that money is going to be limited. So there is an impact on the high level luxury goods, or even basic goods that are sort of in the higher bracket that attract the higher net income bracket. So इस हिसाब से you will see that we need to be mindful of the businesses we are in, and we are not alone in this. We also need to look at what possibly industries that are complementing or that are working with us. कि जो हमारा business है, which business does it supply to? Which business does it get from? Because some of the businesses will either scale up together and others will scale down. So we need to be mindful of our surroundings and monitor some of the industries के जो related industries है or competitive industries है, or something that are alternative products, for example. We need to be mindful of that. All in all, you will have at least some period of time that business is gonna reduce. You will face economic difficulty, you will face reduced sales, there will be pressure on cash. This we have already seen in small businesses more particularly. क्योंकि जो capacity है small business की in terms of cash and what we call working capital, जो पैसे business में stuck हैं, be it with your customers या फिर अपने stock में, या you have obviously some financing of it through your suppliers because you haven't paid them. But all in all, a lot of the trading business relies on inventory or stocks. So there is money stuck in those elements of business. So we need to understand how can we optimize that cycle, because people are going to have a difficult time paying. जो आपके customers हैं, they are also facing the same crisis. So we need to be, while you need to be understanding, you need to set up an approach on how to see and differentiate कि कौन से customer को इस COVID का impact ज़्यादा हुआ है, कौन सा कम. So we need to prepare ourselves at least for the next 3 to 6 to 9 months maybe to be very financially disciplined and sound, and then prepare for the recovery, inshallah, that hopefully will start as we start seeing some breakthroughs on the medical side in terms of either treatments or a vaccine. But at the moment, with all good efforts that are being put around the world, it is still expected to happen anywhere from 9 to 12 to 18 months. I think people are managing expectations as well, because vaccines require a lot more time to develop and get approvals. And people are just trying to be mindful to say not to overcommit and underdeliver. But in terms of precautionary measures, a lot of the other measures will come in place. Economies will open, at least locally, I would assume, in the next 2 or 3 months to 4 months from the current indicators we have. Iske baad, maybe the regional economies might start to open in the next quarter. And towards the end of the year, we might begin to see some recovery internationally, or at least opening up of spaces for travel. This is the current indicators. And what does that tell us? All this is telling us, okay, prepare for a tough time. Let's be ready. So we're going to look at today what we can do about it. So let's move forward. In the short term, कौन से businesses ऐसे हैं जो already we can see that there is some impact, or what can we do in the short term? Immediately when this started, सबने यही सोचा होगा कि मैं कैसे अपने खर्चे कम करूं. और जो probably medium to larger scale companies है, they might be thinking more in the line of कि मैं कैसे new technology adapt करूं that can either simplify my processes or reduce my reliance on human resources, or just to get business. So for example, a colleague of mine, a friend of mine was sharing, and in Pakistan में जो retail stores hai, your friendly neighborhood store, grocery store, just like we have here in many places in Mozambique, they've started taking orders on WhatsApp. They are delivering to doorstep. So this is a very simple example of technology adoption that at least limits the amount of risk there is on your revenues. यानी कि जो बंदा सोचेगा कि मैं निकल सकता हूँ, कैसे नहीं निकल सकता हूँ, he is thinking twice. He already has the comfort to say that I can get what I want delivered to me and I don't need to get out. In economies where there was hard closure, this was definitely one of the more successful initiatives. इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि ये Mozambique में नहीं होगा. It can. There's no harm trying. It might even bring you new customers that you probably not had. So technology adoption, massive shift to working remotely. I'll speak for myself. हमारी company जो है, we work part time in the office, part time at home. So there are days in the week I'm allowed to stay at home and work from home. Ye quickly is becoming a trend, and actually a lot of the people are adopting technologies like Zoom itself. We have things like Blue Jeans. There is all these softwares and VPN softwares to connect to company networks and stuff. We can see the amazing amount at which people have embraced technology and adopted technology. That's why it's coming as a short-term impact. People have totally switched in some cases to remote working. Some people are working Monday to Friday from home, those who can, and those who have the technological capacity to do so. Immediately, a core impact जो हमने देखा है in the short term is immediately people were placed on suspension. While this is obviously legally possible, as per the law, you are allowed when market factors affect your business severely, negatively, immediately, you can lay off your employees on a temporary basis. Yani ke you can put your employment contracts on hold for at least 3 months. It doesn't really define the duration, but there is a payment mechanism for the 3 months that they can remain at home. You pay them 75%, 50%, and 25%, for example. So a lot of the businesses have gone out and done that. The biggest impact for trading or FMCG has been the shock to supply chain. So zahir si baat hai, whatever goods we buy from, we know that in Mozambique there is a lot of reliance on imported products. We use a lot of imported products ourselves, be it from the subcontinent, from Asia, India, China, or our neighbors, South Africa. Fortunately, we have some supply mechanisms going on there. But in general, overall, we have been hit very hard in terms of supply chain, which has obviously created shortages in many of the product lines. Luckily for us, the food and basic necessities are still coming through South Africa, and we are more or less okay, I would say. It's obviously not at the normal levels it was before the crisis, but at a very reasonable level, there is availability in the market of your day-to-day needs. But overall, the things that are coming from the specialized world, technological equipment or construction equipment or whatever sort of high level technology, I mean, that things that are produced in a manufacturing economy, those are all stopped because the flights have reduced, because airlines have been hit severely on the passenger side, obviously, while the cargo side continues, but overall flights have reduced. They are operating fewer planes with fewer frequencies. So the movement of goods is also restricted. I was talking to a colleague of mine, and he was telling me he's dependent on this logistics business to get his goods to sell in Mozambique. And he told me that the transport companies are giving no guarantees. They're giving disclaimers on losses, that if your parcel gets lost in transit, we can't take a guarantee. We'll give you very small compensation should that happen, and we can't give you a timeline. And they can't give you any assurance of your goods reaching. So this is obviously the short-term impact. How much of this can move in the long term? यानी कि आगे चल के what do you think will continue to happen? Now, अभी ये छोटे से period में 2 या 3 महीने में you have realized that you can cut costs, you can do more with less, or you can do a little bit less with a lot less. I believe that this is going to be a big, bright idea sort of a moment for most businessmen, and they will take advantage of this opportunity to structure their costs in the long term. And they will really look at it. When business starts to come back as well, so kitni of my costs that I've cut in this crisis do I need to bring back? Kitna I can do without? Or can I use some of this money that I've saved by cutting certain costs and apply them in other areas of business? So structured cost reduction is something that we look at going forward in the long term. And as I said earlier, rapid adoption of technology. The classic example is we have seen ourselves in the last 3 months how quickly people have started accepting Zoom meetings, Zoom calls, working from home. So this is a trend that is likely to happen, continue to happen in the long term. Dusra, we'll see a lot of short-termism, opportunistic sort of mentality. Okay, there are people, obviously, I'm sure these examples have been used before many times. people have all of a sudden switched to making equipment, medical equipment, sort of protection equipment for the medical industry or general public. I see beautiful Kapulana masks, jaise you see on the street that people are selling. These are opportunistic models. We don't know how long they will last, but the psychology or the approach, I think, will last. People will need to be more agile, you need to be flexible. You can't remain rigid and think that one business idea is going to live for 10, 15, 20 years. Their business might transform in the long run, and you might have to start thinking, okay, 3 to 5 year returns. So obviously, when you start thinking in those terms, your scale will be affected, because you can't invest big amounts of money when you're looking at a flexible or a quick return sort of approach. So I think a lot of small businesses will pop up as a end product of this crisis. Many people who might have been laid off, यानी कि जिनकी नौकरियां जा चुकी हैं, if there are any employees in this chat, a lot of them are probably considering, how can I do a small business that I can sort of survive for now and put bread on my table. A lot of those people might develop into becoming full-time entrepreneurs, because especially industries that have been affected deeply, like hospitality, hotels, वगैरह जो हैं, there is hundreds of thousands of people have been laid off, and they not all can be accommodated in other vacancies. So that will give rise to a lot of these small and medium scale entrepreneurs. Travel is something that is हमारे indications है कि there will be severe impact on business travel as well, as thanks to Zoom and similar technology. But maybe the bigger travel in terms of conferences and that which was already at a reduced scale pre-crisis might be less impacted. But जैसे अभी जो short term business travel businessmen take, जैसे मैं को जाना है एक trip नमपुला में customer से मिलने 2-3 दिन के लिए, और उससे बात करनी है मेरे माल के बारे में या पेमेंट के बारे में, whatever. A lot of these things will happen more electronically. Now I can do a video call and talk to the same person, and I don't have to spend a flight ticket, a hotel stay. Given that human interaction and human experience will be impacted and sometimes is necessary in bigger deals and bigger businesses. But even then, I think the volume will reduce. A lot of the people will switch to this. This will become a norm, so to speak, or the indications are that it will become a norm. Salaries and payroll, जैसे जो how you used to reward your employees in traditional way might totally be transformed. We have seen and firsthand that everybody has taken pay cuts graciously. They understand the business situation. People are taking less, and some of the people are actually working more for less. Yeah, definitely, I think is going to stick around. I think a lot we might have read, for those who have had the good fortune of reading some material around these lines, that performance-related pay. I think personally, I've seen this in the books only, in textbooks, but I think that this is going to be a trend in the future, that a lot of the portion of your pay will start moving towards financial performance, bonuses, things like that, and the fixed element of your salaries and benefits. So day to day, you have to pay on a monthly basis, might definitely go backwards. So it will be, in a way, it's a win-win that employees get more if the business does more. But I think from an approach perspective, I see that happening in the long term. आगे बढ़ते हुए, I'll quickly run through this one so we can focus on the main contents for the day. जो इंडस्ट्रियां शॉर्ट टर्म में और have positive impact, obviously healthcare, hospital हैं, technology है, online shopping है, a lot of the shopping, real estate in terms of retail, mall वगैरह, they are closed or limited operating hours हैं, तो obviously online shopping has suddenly boomed. Telephone, internet, data, a lot of the communication is now happening over phones or over internet using computers, so there has been quick and immediate positive impact in those industries. Home delivery, we talked about it a little bit earlier. Online education, I believe this is one of the biggest benefactors I see coming out of this crisis, as people adjust, and people log more and more will see online education as a viable option, because this is happening right now. And I'm not talking with any restrictions to any age levels. This will happen at all levels, from kids to universities, to online or lifelong learning. One thing, why? Because online learning can be delivered a lot more cost effectively, and obviously it's self-paced in many cases, and it's not restricted to an area. Area can restricted if it can be made available on a global scale using the technology platforms we have available. Renewable energy sustainability, I think it's something that is likely to benefit in the long term from this crisis. See the negative impact, jo immediate hotels, airlines, oil and gas, we have seen prices go of contracts below zero. I'm sure some of you have read around that. Real estate, why real estate? Because a lot of the traditional business activities happen in a building. Okay, where do you operate a shop, for example, or an office? All of this we have seen can be done remotely. And mera ghar can be my office as well, and can be even a small business where I operate out of. So real estate from that perspective will get negative impact. There will be less demand probably, or scaling down of real estate use. Retail, big time, I think is going to be affected. Construction, obviously, because it goes hand in hand with retail. Whatever impact the real estate industry suffers, I think will complement whatever construction is going to suffer. Automotive and travel services, of course. Automotive, why? Because travel is reducing, even local travel from home to office and things like that is going to reduce on a global scale. Already has reduced during this time, but is likely to last. Because you'll think about, do I really want to spend 1 ghanta, 2 ghanta, go every day to work? Jab wahi time you can use productively if you agree with your employer. Okay, main 3 din ghar se kaam karunga. I have an office job anyway. So instead of sitting on the road for an hour, going to work, an hour, coming back, I can do my 8 hours and save 2 hours anyway, that I can do something for myself. So I think that culture probably will start to come. Cash flow planning. Why cash? So cash is like the oxygen of your business. Without oxygen, we know that we can't survive. So profit is one thing. Obviously, profit is a measure of efficiency. यानी कि अगर मैं कोई भी business कर रहा हूँ, if it doesn't make profit, I'm not doing it efficiently. Because my aim or my purpose, मेरा जो मकसद है business में होने के लिए, is to make an extra, to make a profit. But if that profit is not made in cash terms, means I cannot enjoy it, I cannot benefit it. Let's say I sold something, 10 oranges for $100, and I bought them for 80, and I had $100. So I used my 80 in cash to buy 10 oranges, and I sold it to Samir, for example, on credit, that you can take the 10 oranges, you pay me 100, but you can pay me in 3 months' time. So while I've reported a profit of 20, I have actually lost $80 from a cash perspective. That 80 of my dollars is stuck until Samir pays me, that I can enjoy my 20 and go back and have the money to buy the oranges again to do business. It's as simple as that. And that's why cash is important. I understand fully that this type of businesses we operate here in Mozambique, and a lot of the people probably in the audience have to find a good balance between selling at cash and selling at credit. So these are the things we'll be looking at. How do you manage your suppliers? What sort of credit do you give? And when you do give credit, तो क्या कर सकते हैं to make sure that people pay on time and you are collecting and they don't become risky, for example, that if they've been affected by the COVID crisis. Some of the housekeeping that you can do to manage these sort of elements of the business. So working capital का जो अपन ने बात की थी at the beginning, I talked about optimizing working capital. Working capital के 3 main element है. There is customers, which are holding your cash, obviously. Stock, this clear for FMCG and most of the retail. Everybody knows that you need to have things available to sell. अगर माल नहीं होगा तो माल नहीं बिकेगा. Then there is no chance of profit. So inventory and customers, I think the first and foremost two where your money goes out or is stuck. जो तीसरा angle है working capital का, which is your suppliers. This is obviously where you can minimize कि कितना of your cash is stuck. In an ideal scenario, if I'm selling at credit, I would like to buy at credit so that my own cash doesn't get tied up. So suppliers can help ease the burden of the cash that is stuck. जितना पैसा customer और stock में फंसा है, how much can I leverage my suppliers to get those same goods on credit so that my cash is not stuck in the business. Cash flow, वैसे normal economy में already a headache है, and I know that a lot of the people trade on credit, so they are always chasing people for their money to be able to get enough to go back and put it back in the business, buy more goods. So cash flow is something that अगर अब तक headache नहीं था, and I'm sure it was, but still if it wasn't, now it's a big headache because a lot of the businesses are at risk. A lot of the people, a lot of the debts that is out there is now all of a sudden become risky. I mean, if you would think in January or February that I would have such a serious implication, is situation में होंगे कि we don't know where the money is coming in from and where it's going and how much of it will be actually collectible. It would be difficult to imagine this scenario we are in today. But how quickly that has changed is now made cash everybody's concern. From the smallest business to the biggest business, everybody is thinking in cash terms today. Okay, how much of cash can I preserve? How can I optimize my cash? This is the question on everybody's mind. Jabke business pre-COVID, I would say, अपना focus था कि how can I expand my business, and to do that maybe I would sell even more on credit कि मैं अपने दूसरे नए customer ढूंढूं जिनको मैं ज़्यादा अपना माल बेच सकूं, probably some on credit as well. The focus was driving profit, driving business growth. Now all of a sudden it's about survival. Can I make it in this crisis, and how much of my cash can I keep so that I can stretch that cash as long as I can and survive these tough times. So for a good business, you need to find a good balance between profit and cash. There is no point of having huge amounts of profit where cash doesn't come in and it probably is at risk with clients that might eventually never pay you. So you'll come back and write them off. यानी कि अगर सारी मेरी sales credit पे है, then I have a much higher risk of that profit turning into a loss. Most importantly, सबसे नाजुक बात in working capital management is timing. ये बहुत जरूरी है कि बंदा समझे कि कितना कैश debtors में stuck है and at what times it becomes liquidated. कि मेरी, if I look at my full portfolio of debtors, how many people are on 30-day terms, 60-day terms, 90-day terms, and it is important to understand that. क्योंकि जैसे मेरे obligations become due, for example, I have to pay salaries, मुझे अपने supplier को आगे payment करनी है, मेरी इतनी capacity नहीं है कि मुझे credit पे माल मिले, so that means cash becomes even more important. And you need to understand कि जो मेरा cash बाहर है, जो stock और debtors में stuck है, कब liquidate होगा और कब मेरे पास उसकी availability आएगी. So timing in all of this is very important. ये simple cycle है for those finance sort of people interested in finance. Because simple formula how to understand how much of your cash is stuck for how many days. तो उसके लिए तीन element हैं, जो तीन elements we talked about: customer days, stock days, which is inventory days, and supplier days. So if you take this amount, जैसे अपना पैसा जो फंसा हुआ है, number of days to collect your money or number of days that your stock sits in store before it becomes a sale, and the number of days you take to pay your suppliers. So if you add the first two, so your stock days and your debtor days, supplier days, and minus what you're holding from your suppliers, that are obviously on credit I'm talking about, not cash suppliers, then you can know the efficiency of your cash. But you can read more about this on internet, there's lots available. So just to give you a simple tool to understand your cash cycle. We talked a lot about working capital management, and obviously the three elements that we talked about के जो पैसे customers के पास हैं, inventory में हैं, or the ones that you actually owe people to your suppliers. So I'm going to skip past this. How can you get, how can you focus on your customers to get them to pay you? So एक simple thing, and I saw somebody mentioned on one of my questions to the answers, somebody talked about a age analysis or a debtors listing. And a simple tool that you can use is at least know what you have, and I'm sure most people have this. Now, looking at that report is very important. It's not about just looking at who owes you what. Most of these places, okay, जहाँ पर systems use हो रहे हैं, it will give you clearly defined that how much of my debt is 30-day old, या फिर 60-day, 90, 120. You should focus where it's possible on long outstanding debts to understand what the issue is, because those are highly at risk. If somebody even pre-COVID was already sitting in over 90 and 110 days, you need to understand that what is the collectability, यानी कि उसकी क्या capacity है बंदे की कि वो अभी जो 120 दिन से पैसे नहीं दे रहा था, he is going to start paying you all of a sudden. So you need to understand your debts at risk by looking at your long outstanding debts. There might be some wins there कि वो already मेरे 120 दिन से पैसे रोका हुआ है, तो maybe he can now come around and at least give me some of the money compared to the people who are probably sitting in 30 days. So there is both a positive outlook and a negative outlook in long-standing debts, and it's good that you review on a regular basis के मेरे debts don't reach that stage, but those that are there, उसमें से कितना risk पे है और कितना there is an opportunity that you can go to your debtor or your client and try to negotiate him to pay as quickly as possible. दूसरा, the biggest cash flow normally, and generally when we talk business, from January to March is normally a very difficult period for most businesses. Internationally, it's one of those, it's January. You've just finished the year, there is very low sales. So people are very reluctant to pay because maybe they've gone on a holiday and they have to pay school fees and, the usual excuses. Now, all of a sudden, this January has extended into June for us and might even extend into December for all we know. So you cannot just let people give you excuses and take you around for your money. We need to come up with a way to chase your debt without being maybe too pushy and probably disrespectful. But we can't continue to be taken for a ride with those excuses because this is going to be the scenario for the time being. So we need to be careful on not coming around as pushy, but ये भी ख्याल रखना है कि अगर वो पैसे मेरे collect नहीं हुए तो then I can't meet my own obligations to pay my own employees' salaries or pay my suppliers to be able to buy more goods to be actually be in trade. The other thing is छोटे businesses, I think, face this a lot more. They are a lot scared to go after their clients, obviously, compared to bigger businesses. They use their weight around. Chote businesses feel that, okay, if I go and ask, maybe stop buying from me. And that sort of mentality, I think we need to get rid of. We need to come to a point that we are in this situation all together. Everybody is facing a difficult time. And the best approach you can have is one that is straight, direct, and transparent. Talk to the people. Go so far as to understand कि उनके business पे क्या impact हुआ है if you have debts. Understand that, because that way you will be able to probably classify your debts in by industry to see that, okay, these are my highest impacted customers, these are low, these are actually thriving. So there are people and there are businesses that are doing a bit better than they were even doing before the COVID situation. And those are the customers maybe who can pay you faster. So it is important to analyze your debtors listing from different angles, from age to the kind of customers you have. And this will lead you to the next phase. You need to look at what is possible in terms of more business or less business, because this will lead into your forward business. So you will start to see that there are industries that will probably give you more customers. And I mean more orders, and there are industries that have suffered. Eventually they will fall off as your customers. So as you analyze your customers, you get into analyzing your contracts or where business comes from, rather than waiting and seeing for itself that, okay, Samir or Anil was buying from me, all of a sudden he falls off. I want to proactively manage and understand my client base even more. We have the time now. We can't say that we don't have time. Everybody has the time now. Everybody is in difficulty. Everybody needs to start looking at their business in more detail. Even if you have accountants, I think important hai that you understand that you know the status of everything that is cash and have an appreciation of where everything stands. Why? Because sometimes in debt chasing, it's not only finance that can get money out. Maybe there is a personal relationship with some businessman that I have, and if I approach as the owner directly to the business owner, I might be able to help my finance team to collect the money. So understanding your clients by what they do, how they are, and sort of relationship, who has the most pull. Maybe your sales team has a good relationship, one of the managers in the business. that you want to collect money from. So I think it's important to look at debt from that perspective. Get your team involved. As I said, the more people out there that are doing your debt collection, the better. That doesn't mean you send everybody without a plan. कि सबको भेज दिया भाई पैसे, कल ये आ रहा है, परसों उसी कंपनी से सेम कंपनी पे जा रहा है मेरा सेल्स मैनेजर, फिर इसके 2-4 दिन बाद ओनर आ रहा है. No, have a plan. Obviously, in smaller businesses with smaller teams, this is overwhelming situation. There is यानी कि बहुत कुछ करने के लिए है. तो divide and conquer. Divide the work that you have. Get the team involved, as I was mentioning earlier. Check who is the most suitable for this particular client to collect debt. Okay, there's a good relationship here or there. Talk to your teams on a regular basis. Understand the situation. Because you've already sent somebody a reminder and somebody is committed to pay by a certain date. You don't want to go knocking their doors again in 2 days' time when he told you, I'll give you next Monday. Because you probably will annoy them. So communicate frequently. If it means that your debtor cycle or listing is very small, that you can manage on a daily basis, fantastic. That you get updates. So कौन से account से आज बात हुई और क्या update मिला. And you will see how all that fits in the forecast process. I think it's important. Okay, we understand first individually how these things work and how they lead on better business planning from a business perspective. दूसरी बात यह है कि client analysis में it will give you an appreciation of, as I said, at-risk industries, so that you can then talk to the balance that you're holding at the moment and see, do you want to take more risk by providing more sales just because you're getting revenue and supply more orders, or do you want to stop? So the concept of credit limit might be very important in data management, that you set a limit per client. It might not be the same per client because जिसकी capacity or type of industry or type of business or type of relationship जो है आपकी, उस हिसाब से you can do that. दूसरा main section is stocks. Obviously, reduce the amount of stock. But stock में you can look at 2 or 3 things. I'm going to give you tips. जो fast moving item है obviously versus more profitable items. This is a key. You don't want slow moving items. Yes, they might make a lot of money, but your cost of cash holding in that item might be a lot. इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि don't sell anything that makes good margin and it takes some days to sort of materialize. Find a good balance. Find a happy balance between what makes you money and what sells quickly. अगर आपके goods में expiry date नहीं है, तो भी think like that, because when it comes to managing cash, this is how you need to think. Okay, my goods will expire, and if I don't sell them, I'm going to lose money, because they might not expire, but they might become obsolete all of a sudden, especially if you don't have a full idea of what sort of changes in customer behaviors that are happening at the moment. Something that might be selling today might not sell tomorrow. So think like सब कुछ expire हो जाना है, सबको मुझे लाना है कि 30 or 60 or 90 day cycle. From the time I buy to I sell it, it should not sit on my shelves. That will put extra motivation in turning your cash. Supplier payments, as earlier in the conversation, this is another section. I think the best approach, in my opinion, as a finance person, is have an honest, open, transparent communication with the suppliers and use the same approach like you use for debtors. When they are customers that are big companies, they might be able to help small traders. ये हो रहा है दुनिया के दूसरे इलाकों में कि big companies are prioritizing payments to the small suppliers rather than paying the big suppliers. And they are willingly and consciously helping these kind of people. So you might have some big suppliers or on your database, they might agree in the reverse to give you extra days to pay to support your business. So you could use that principle both ways, that if somebody owes you, you can collect faster, and if you owe some of these big companies, you can potentially negotiate a better payment term and look at the most high risk clients on your business. इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि you never pay. If you make a commitment, obviously you should honor it. And if you find out कि अपनी क्या position है and I can't sort of get there, then we need to communicate openly and come up with a backup plan. But overall, suppliers is what gives you leverage in managing your cash. I'm going to move because I think I'm taking a lot of time. So I'll jump to the next topic. It's not only about suppliers. मेरे हिसाब से governments are doing a lot. Unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, the focus of Mozambican government has been on helping small businesses. So whatever big business, whatever guidelines or tax incentives and everything that has come, it's really focusing on people who are making 2.5 million revenues per year rather than the big businesses. So for those of you who have small businesses, might be able to benefit from that. Cost reduction may, I would like to jump in and give you the approach. Remember at the beginning we talked about, obviously everybody wants to cut costs. Sabko kam karna hai, sabko sustainable karna hai, कि मेरे पास enough cash हो, then I can have these things. The easiest and simplest approach is to divide your costs and you can break it down into nice to have, must have, and business critical. So I'll start in reverse order. Business critical is something that if I don't spend that money, I can't continue to have my business. Simple as that. Okay? If I have a delivery business, if I don't have people on payroll or contracted out to deliver my goods, I have no business. It's a business critical cost. Either I have delivery people and I have a business, or I don't have. Must haves. These are things that I would say that directly generate returns. For example, in sales and advertising, I would use a commission. That if I pay somebody a sales commission, I have that business. If I don't pay that commission, मेरे पास वो business नहीं है. So that's a must-have example. While the other kinds of sales and marketing, I'm not sure in these current circumstances how they're effective, but where there is reward directly linked to production, these are nice costs to have and must-have costs, and you have to pay. You can't run away from them, because if you want to continue to manage your business, you need to have those costs. Other things that are nice to have, these I've probably already cut by now, so I will not take too much time on that because you've already been in crisis 3 months. I'm sure you've already cut your nice to have costs, and maybe probably cut some of your must have costs because you don't have enough, unfortunately. So things like travel, entertainment, wo client ko khana khilaya, keep him in good books because he's buying a lot from you, or you need to get money from him, or his check. These are nice things to have. In the current situation, they are anyway not possible because there's lots of restrictions on meeting people and having that contact. So even if it's possible in today's context, I think there are not people going out for coffees and lunches and dinners. That's sort of nice to have. आगे बढ़ते हुए, payroll. I'm sure ये एक subject है that everybody wants to hear a little bit about. What can I do about my payroll? And it's one of those tough conversations, and this difficult subject. We need to be mindful that you are dealing with people's livelihood, people's bread and butter, and it's not easy. But one approach that we have seen some of the colleagues and businesses take is some people have taken drastic cuts immediately because, for example, the hospitality sector, as I mentioned, in 3 hafte mein, the sales ran down to 0. There is no way we could afford to not put those people on suspension because, one, there is no business, means there is no income, there's no cash coming in. 2, there is actually no work to do. So the hotels are closed, nobody is coming in. We don't need to serve anybody. We don't need to cook anything for anyone. So these are people actually currently sitting at home and getting the suspension pay, as we mentioned. So a lot of people have taken that drastic measure immediately. And more importantly, they don't know how many are actually going to come back. And all this depends a little bit on external factors like borders opening, planes again back in the sky, people actually wanting to travel. So it's a little bit of tough. People made a tough call, and now we are a little bit stuck, I must say, because what do we do next? This is something we're debating at the moment, honestly, if I would share with you. But in terms of laying off, we didn't lay anybody off. These are all suspended. But there is a way you can, if you quickly can assess the impact on your business, or you see that all of a sudden your business is going to be extinct, that the demand for these kind of things will not exist anymore, you might have to make a painful decision to drastically cut your employees. Where you see you can phase it. दूसरा approach जो incremental है कि मेरी sales को immediately 20% का धक्का लगा, or it can be 40 or 60 in the long term depending on how things go. Then you can phase your payroll costs as well. And I'm not talking about laying off as well. It's, as I said, you can get a lot of ideas. I think you should engage your employees to some extent. I know some decisions like this cannot be taken all the time with employees, but be mindful. You're affecting their lives. I think they ought to be involved to some extent in the process. They might even come up with good ideas. कि जो office workers है, for example, इतना काम नहीं है, कम हो गया है कि 5 दिन काम नहीं करना है, they can work on a 3-day week and probably take 60% of the pay to survive during this tough time and help the business as it is. They might do that. But if you don't engage them, you don't know what's possible from their angle as well. So in some shape or form, मेरे ख्याल से important है कि since it's affecting their lives and affecting to some extent, you should have a consultation and engage them, maybe get some ideas from them. People are agreeing to pay cuts, voluntary pay benefits that they are giving up. Others, leave is your biggest asset. If you have chutti, you have a liability anyway for all your employees. The best thing you can do is use this period to clear all of the leaves. I know it's not something I would like to do if I was one of them, because I don't want to take a forced leave where I can't go anywhere. But I think everybody understands. Okay, yeah, situation, we are all in this together. I might not like to do that, but at least I will get my pay if I take a paid leave because it's due. The other thing is unpaid leave. People are also volunteering and coming up and saying that, okay, we can take 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Or if they're not volunteering on a larger company, larger scale, you have to come up with some system to implement maybe unpaid leaves 1 week in 1 month or 2 weeks in 1 month on a rotation basis. That this month, these of my employees are unpaid. Next month is another group. Next month is another group. But जो भी decision आप लें, please communicate, share with everybody. Communication avoids a lot of problems. Okay, if they find it from a third party, you tell one employee and then tells other people, that's going to cause a lot of problems, in my opinion, because they expect you to come out straight and be very transparent, very clear about the plans. This is how the business is impacted. This is how we intend to solve the problems. And I think be open and transparent, and you will find solutions. How can you sustain your business going forward? So one of the basic tools that we use is forecasting. Forecasting, I know that nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody knows what's going to happen. But इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि हम सारी planning छोड़ दें. At the minimum, we can plan 2 या 3 scenario that this is how my business will be affected. And 13 weeks, which is roughly about 3 months, 3-month forecast. I think any businessman from top to bottom, be it a small business owner, a bada business owner who have access to obviously highly professional and skilled accountants, can put together. It's a very simple report that sort of gives you an idea of where your money is coming from, when is it coming, and where is it going. So you're looking at your revenues, your purchases, payroll costs, any taxes that might still be applicable, although you might have some leeway on tax, especially as I mentioned earlier for small businesses. There is some concessions that are made, but a simple worksheet, week by week, you can project. How can you project? You go back to the elements that we talked about. We talked about debtors. If you have a debtors plan and you are monitoring it on a regular basis, one debtor will say, okay, I'm going to pay you in so and so date. Go and plug that money in that week. So if you do that for all your debtors, that way you will know all your credit sales when they are going to come in. Dusra, you have from your business trends on a weekly basis, you do daily cash closing, you know what sort of cash sales you're making. So you plot based on a trend. Look at the last 2 or 3 months as a good example because you've lived in this crisis. How has your sales been affected? Those trends will generally continue, at least if you look at the next 13 weeks. Expenses, your big ones being your staff costs, other unavoidable costs like bank charges and things like that. Again, here there are opportunities. You can use this time to maybe explore if there are other bankers that will give you less expenses or less charges, for example. Or if you're looking at insurance, for example, I know insurance industry is hit very hard. You can find options. I wouldn't say cancel your insurance because actually if you need it anytime, it's now more than ever. But iska matlab ye nahi ki you can't save. I've looked at a lot of insurance expenses and reduced for my own business because business level is not the same. The risk you're covering is not the same, means the cost cannot be the same. It's a simple principle. Challenge all of these lines. The aim of having this report is one, to get an idea okay, if there will be a shortfall or excess in a particular week that you as a business owner can then use to decide where am I going to get this money from. If I'm going to have a shortfall, can I get some overdraft from the bank, or can I move some supplier payments to the next week? It's to give you a visibility on your financial position for the next few weeks and on a week by week basis. So you can actually take some action. And to do this report, I think you don't need to really be an accountant. You just need to be more aware of how the money flows in your business. Where is it coming in? Where is it going? And if you don't understand this report now is a good time to start. Sit down with your accountant, understand this kind of reports. understand your business deeply from a financial perspective. And there is no better time to start than today. Why do you need the focus? It gives you maybe sometimes the added motivation or pressure to do something about things that might not be working out and you need to change. Or it gives you peace of mind. For some example, okay, for the next 4 weeks, my focus is that I'm not going to be out. So the actions that I've put in place, just like paise collect karna hai, isko pay karna hai, they're sort of working. I can focus maybe on other areas of the business to see how I can get new clients or something. So it can be a tool that gives you either a motivation to act more with more urgency or feel more comfortable with the overall position that there is. But also brings out the risks, because you might be cutting it very close in certain weeks. So it's just about balancing what's coming in and what's going out. So it's a good way, because this is uncertain times. And एक तरीका है जो uncertainty का you can handle is this. Put things on paper, put a scenario, maybe try 2 or 3 different scenarios that sales will go down or collections will go down or collections will go up in certain weeks, or they'll be delayed by 3 months, or I'll have to pay my suppliers more faster. This helps you reduce an element of uncertainty, even in these uncertain times. Jab you take this conscious action to start putting things on a black and white piece of paper, it gives you more the feeling of control. Okay, that I know what's happening in my business and here I need to do something about it. So cash flow focus, the biggest advantage I would say is that you feel more in control, even in this such turbulent times. I have included some tips. Unfortunately, because of time, I'll not be able to go through because I'm already at an hour and I plan to speak for 40 minutes. But you can look for this website. There is these are the lawyers that we actually use for our company, Guillaume Daniel. The managing partner, Guillaume, has actually posted a nice series of articles about COVID-19. The website is at the bottom. If you just search managing the impacts of COVID-19 and Guillaume Daniel, you will find that page. I've only picked out the tax bit, but it talks about how to manage human resources, how to manage environment, or there's employees. There's lots of things, lots of resources, free resources. You can get it in English or Portuguese. There's a simple button at the top. You can toggle between English and Portuguese, and you can get yourself some help on the current situation, in particular in the Mozambican context. Lastly, I'll take this section very quickly to sort of conclude my presentation. Yeah, you can look at this current time in 2 ways. That it's actually unproductive. Okay, business is down. I have nothing to do and I can't do anything. Or you can use this time to really tackle the big business problems you always had. If you never had, for example, a review of your procedures, for example, now is a good time to start when you have additional time. If you ever thought about additional revenue streams or diversifying your business, now is a good time. Look online, lots of free resources. What are the opportunities? What's happening in the world? Look in local context. Okay, jo business acha kar rahe hain, maybe they have capital issues. Maybe you can divest some of your capital and help support a brother to expand his business and get returns from him. There is many different ways to look at things. But important kya hai कि we look at how I can make the best use of this time that I have available. There is so many things you can do. Just decide and focus on 2 or 3 top things that can help improve your business, and focus on that and keep at it. So if you never took the interest and time to understand your finances of your business, do that today when you have the time. Because you cannot underestimate the power of the input you will put in terms of hours. It's as good as equity, like putting money. The more you learn your business, the better you can run it. And when you take that time to understand and find ideas and engage people to do better, you will see it's like you have invested capital in the business. Time is your biggest capital. Use it wisely. So I would like to close the session here today and at least use a few minutes to maybe answer some questions that you might have. And I see this beautiful quote from Winston Churchill, a prominent British politician, army leader back in the 1940s, that never let a good crisis go to waste. If you learn nothing from this crisis, that will be the biggest loss, because this crisis will give you opportunity to make yourself better from what you were yesterday. So I would like to give the mic maybe back to my moderator, Sikandar and Avnish, probably to share with us some questions that might have been posted in the Q&A. I haven't seen anything myself. Maybe something in the chat boxes while I was talking. I would like to open the floor for questions. If anybody needs any has any doubts, I would be happy to assist.
Salman, can
Yes,
you share the link in the chat box or with me or with
yes,
Avnish so that we can then share with our, the economic
absolutely,
member and they can then share with the participants?
absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Uh, uh, okay, we have a request to share the presentation. I would like to
No
ask you,
problem.
can we share the presentation with
Yes,
the members?
absolutely. Shamshi has a copy already. I'm sure with Zoom you log in with your email, so you will have a list of participants and their emails. Feel free to
Okay,
circulate the presentation. No problem.
thank you so much. Okay, we will definitely going to share with our members and participants. Uh, and I request all the members who have questions, please come forward and ask, write down your question in a Q&A panel, which is right in the right side of your, the top screen. You can just click over there and you can put your question over there, Q&A. So far that panel is empty. If you want to write the question in the chat box, you can do that so as well. दूसरा मैं सबसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि आज का जो हमारा ये सेशन है, इस सेशन के बारे में हम लोगों ने एक फीडबैक फॉर्म बनाया हुआ है, जो शमशी को मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि आप सबके साथ वो शेयर करें और 2 या 3 मिनट में आप वो भर सकते हैं। तो मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूं कि आप उस फीडबैक फॉर्म को भर के सबमिट करें, तो हम अपने आप को किस तरह से कहाँ से इम्प्रूव कर सकते हैं उसके बारे में हमको पता चलेगा फीडबैक फॉर्म से, और नेक्स्ट प्रोग्राम के अंदर हम वो चीज़ इम्प्लीमेंट कर सकेंगे। उसके अंदर आप ये भी डाल सकते हैं कि भाई आपको और क्या-क्या चीज़ों की ज़रूरत है, और आप यहाँ भी लिख सकते हैं। मीनवाइल कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं आ रहा है, तो एक और चीज़ मैं बताना चाहूँगा कि इसके बाद हमारे दूसरे जो प्रोग्राम्स हैं, इसी महीने के अंदर हम लोगों ने 2 और प्रोग्राम ऑर्गेनाइज किए हुए हैं। उसमें से जो नेक्स्ट हमारा प्रोग्राम होगा, वो वेबिनार होगा, और वो हाउ टू गो ऑनलाइन, मतलब आज जो कोविड-19 सिचुएशन के हिसाब से बिजनेसेस को धक्का लगा है, टेक्नोलॉजी जो है वो अपने पैर पकड़ रही है, और जैसा सोचा सा उससे फास्टर लोग टेक्नोलॉजी की तरफ डाइवर्ट हो रहे हैं। तो हम अपने आप को इस टेक्नोलॉजी का इस्तेमाल करके अपने बिजनेस को कैसे फायदा पहुंचाए, और कैसे इसके अंदर इसको साथ में मिलके कैसे हम अपना रेवेन्यू बढ़ाए या तो जो बिजनेस सेल्स है उसको बढ़ाए, उसके बारे में हमने एक वेबिनार ऑर्गेनाइज किया है, जो 20 जून को सैटरडे को सेम टाइम पे हम लोग करेंगे, नेक्स्ट सैटरडे 20 तारीख को। उसकी भी हम लोग आपको लिंक और पासवर्ड वगैरह भेजेंगे, तो आप सब लोग उसमें भी पार्टिसिपेट कर पाएंगे। और मैं थैंक यू कह रहा हूँ जितने भी हमारे पार्टिसिपेट अच्छे नंबर में पार्टिसिपेट आए थे नेशन वाइड, आप सबके अटेंडेंस की वजह से हमारा ये जो वेबिनार आज का है ये सक्सेसफुल हुआ है, एंड आई एम श्योर कि आपने आज के वेबिनार से कुछ न कुछ हासिल किया होगा। Thank you, Salman. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. It was a really wonderful webinar. A lot of things we got to know. बहुत सारे पॉइंट्स मैंने यहाँ पे नोट किए हैं जो मैं अभी रिपीट करना चाहूँगा ताकि एक रिकैप हो जावे। जैसे डिफरेंट पिक्चर्स ऑफ जीडीपी लाइक 9 बॉक्सेस के अंदर दिखाया, फिर उसमें ब्लू बॉक्सेस एंड व्हाइट बॉक्सेस थे which was showing like the recovery side of the current scenario। फिर वर्किंग कैपिटल के बारे में हमने जाना, डेप्ट कलेक्टर के बारे में हमने जाना, शॉर्ट टर्म एंड लॉन्ग टर्म स्ट्रेटेजी के बारे में जाना, ग्रोइंग एंड द डिक्लाइनिंग इंडस्ट्रीज के बारे में हमने जाना, इसके अंदर कैश फ्लो प्लानिंग के बारे में हमने जाना, इन्वेंट्री एंड रिसीवेबल के बारे में हमने जाना, स्टॉक होल्डिंग के बारे में हमने जाना। तो बहुत सारे पॉइंट्स ऐसे हैं जो बहुत ही यूजफुल है। ऑलमोस्ट ऑल द पॉइंट्स आर वेरी यूजफुल फॉर द बिजनेस। स्पेशली इन द करंट सिचुएशन, और हर एक पॉइंट के ऊपर सोच समझ के इम्प्लीमेंट करने जैसी बात थी। तो मैं हमारी इकोनॉमिक प्लानिंग मैटर्स की तरफ से जो हमारे मेंबर अभी है अवनीश यहाँ पे मौजूद है इसके अंदर, और पूरी टीम की तरफ से थैंक यू कहूँगा और कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशन कहूँगा। थैंक यू सो मच। अवनीश, would you like to say anything?
Hello everyone, thank you for participation and make it a successful program. Looking forward for more such programs. Thank you.
मैं फिर से एक बार सबसे गुजारिश करूंगा, अगर कोई भी क्वेश्चन है तो आप, हम अभी भी और 1 मिनट 60 सेकेंड्स तक वेट करेंगे। अगर कोई क्वेश्चन है तो आप चैट बॉक्स या तो क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन के अंदर, सेक्शन के अंदर आप पोस्ट कर सकते हैं। और रिक्वेस्ट करता हूं कि जो वेबिनार का जो हम लोगों ने आपको फीडबैक फॉर्म भेजा है उसको भर के सबमिट कर दीजिए प्लीज। थैंक यू सो मच। ओके, थैंक यू सो मच सलमान। पार्टिसिपेंट्स, आप सबका मैं बहुत बहुत शुक्रगुजार करता हूं, और हम लोग यहाँ पे अपना जो वेबिनार है आज खत्म करेंगे। थैंक यू सो मच। सी यू नेक्स्ट टाइम। याली मदद, बाय बाय।